Okay, now let's talk about the tab 4 comparison number 4. This is where we're comparing the proportion of one variable from two different subpopulations. Here's a list of the things that we need to include in that tab. Let's look at the Excel spreadsheet. So the comparison that this is going to look at is the proportion of competitors with time greater than 2 hours between the two age groups, 30 to 39 and 50 to 59. So the first column that I need is where it gives an indication of which of those subpopulation the sample member is in. So we've got some from 30 to 39 and some from 50 to 59. And then we need the variable that's actually going to give us that proportion. So here is the chip time. Now, what we really want to know is whether the time is greater than 2 hours or less than 2 hours. So I created another column and I just went through and put a Y for yes if that number is greater than 2 hours and an N for no if it's less than 2 hours. Now, in this table, I'm going to fill in the proportion for each of those subgroups of less than 2 hours and greater than 2 hours. But first I need a frequency or a count of each of those. So I'm going to create a pivot table that will automatically do that count for me. So I put I select a cell inside that data table, going to insert pivot table. It automatically selects that data table. I want to put it in this worksheet, so I change to existing worksheet, and then I select the cell where I want it to start. So I'm going to start it right there in J1 and then hit OK. Now I build the table. So in the rows, I want division. Automatically gives me row labels with my two divisions. And then in the columns, I want to have greater than 2 hours. Okay, so in the column, it's automatically giving me a count for N and a count for Y. What I want it to do is, or it's giving me column labels of those two things. Now I want it to count it up. So I grab that field again, greater than 2 hours. I drag it down to values. It defaults to count, which is what I want. Okay, so this is how it should look before I click out of here and start to do some formatting. So the rows is going to be where I have my subpopulations. The column is for that yes or no column. And then value is also for that yes or no column. And I want it to be a count. If it doesn't automatically do count, you can click that I and select count. Okay, so we don't need this anymore, but we do want to do some formatting because this is kind of messy. So let's shrink this down and let's wrap this. We need to go to home so we can change our formatting. We'll wrap this so we don't have to have such a wide column. Yes can be a little bit bigger. And then grand total, if we wrap that, that works too. Okay, or we can just change that to say total. Now, this is like a frequency table, okay? We have a total of 16, right? We look at our list, we have a total of 16 sample members. 8 of them are 30 to 39, 8 are 50 to 59. Of the 30 to 39, 6 of them do not have a time that is greater than 2 hours. So that means it's less than 2 hours. We want that proportion. All right, so to create that proportion, we're going to put in a formula here. So if I hit equals, I can select on that 6. Don't worry about all the stuff that Excel puts in there. Just do a divided by and then click on that total of 16. Hit enter. You might have to change it to percentage if it doesn't automatically do that. And then that gives you a proportion. So that's saying of the females 30 to 39, 38% had a time less than 2 hours. All right, now let's do that for the next category, 50 to 59. We go equals, click on the 4, which is the less than 2 hours. It's no for greater, divided by that total of 16. And we get 25%. Now let's fill that in for greater than 2 hours. So equals 30 to 39, yes, greater than 2 hours divided by the total 16. Hit enter. Same thing for the 50 to 59 equals Yes, greater than 2 hours divided by the total of 16. Okay, so that gives us the proportions that we need. This column right here, we don't really need that. That's extra. We can get rid of that. Sorry for that being there and kind of throwing us off a little. Okay, so this table right here is what we need to have for this tab. Whether you use the pivot table or not, it doesn't matter, but what you need to end up with is this proportion for each of your subcategories that matches up with the variable that you're looking at. In my case, my variable was greater than 2 hours, and so these are the actual values that I am going to be using in this comparison.